So you've just finished that YouTube video. You spent so long planning it, filming it, editing it. It's taken so many hours just to put together, and now it's ready, finally ready to be uploaded to YouTube. But one of the annoying things about YouTube is that when you upload a video, it can sometimes be very, very hard. In fact, most of the time it's very hard to get the video seen, and all your work is just another video lost in the algorithm. And I want to kind of help you out with that. And one of the ways that you can definitely increase your chances of getting your video seen is getting a good thumbnail. And that's what we're talking about in this video. Stay tuned. Let's get started. Alright, so let's get started with the thumbnail. Now, while I have strayed from Adobe products for editing softwares, I do still stick by Adobe when it comes to design, and Photoshop is something that I use very often, and I really got into Photoshop a lot when I started doing comics, but nowadays I really use it for design and graphics for my YouTube channel, so whether that be banners, which we will talk about in an upcoming episode, or profile pictures or logos for any brands or external projects that I have, I will use Photoshop for the majority of that. So let's get started. So I'm going to import a photo, and this is my template. This is just something I downloaded off the internet and made blank. So you can just search on the internet thumbnail, YouTube thumbnail templates, and you really need to follow this template because it's gonna look weird if you don't have the correct canvas size for your YouTube thumbnail. So let's take a look at the canvas size. So it's 17.778 inches by 10 inches. That is, I think, a little bit inaccurate. I don't know, but somewhere around there. You can definitely go to the internet and download that. I will leave a link to that down below. But anyways, that is gonna be our size for the thumbnail. And let's get started. Okay, so we have this blank canvas right here, and there's just a multitude of possibilities that we can mess around with, especially when it comes to the thumbnail. And I am not always excited to do the thumbnail. I feel that it's kind of tedious sometimes, and it's just something to get over, but your thumbnail is so important. It's definitely something that will attract your viewers and just make them decide whether they want to click on this video or not. So I really want to make everything as big as possible and bold, so I really don't have anything pale when it comes to thumbnails. But let me just show you some of my past work. So this is what the thumbnail looks like, and as you can see, it looks like a lot, but it's literally only 2 photos and just text on top of it. So I blended 2 photos together, and we will be talking about how we can do that later on. And of course, we have our more than a video logo here, and we have, you know, text and graphics and stuff like that. So I really like to do this sort of thing, you know, designing and making things look modern and clean. So let's get started. So what I usually do is I actually go to unsplash.com, and this is a place where you can find a lot of high quality stock photos, and they're very decent photos. And what I do is I don't use the actual photo. I actually take the photo and I modify it, since there's no copyright or anything to this. So let's just search up Photoshop. You know, I'm just searching up different things, and I might get to something like this. You know, I'm just searching for photos. So let's search up this man working on a computer. You know, I'm just browsing through these photos and just looking for the right one that I feel fits with my video. And this looks like a pretty cool one. This one doesn't look bad, but it does look kind of blurry, but we'll see what we can do with that in Photoshop. So let's just save that, and I will just continue to look at different stuff just to make sure, just to see. And once I find the one I want and I feel that works with the thumbnail, you know, like I often get asked, you know, like especially for these projects, I know some of you will probably be asking, like, what sort of photos do I want to find? Well, this is a tutorial on graphic design, or just a couple tips and tricks on graphic design. So I do want to take a couple of photos of people working, and then I can do like big text and graphics, like how to make a thumbnail or whatever like that. So let's come back here. I haven't really looked at any other photos yet, but we can worry about that later. And let's import this photo, right? And once you import this photo, it's gonna open up by itself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select it, copy it, and paste it onto here. And it doesn't really look that bad, if I'm being completely honest with you. So I'm just gonna leave that right there, and maybe enlarge it a little bit just by pressing Control T. Again, just like in the editing softwares, I just try to find as many shortcuts as possible. And I'm actually gonna do this, and I found this photo of someone editing in Premiere Pro, which is kind of funny because I'm holding up the torch for DaVinci Resolve for this particular series, but it's, you know, nobody's gonna notice if I hide it well enough. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this, and as you can see, it looks kind of bad right now, but we are gonna fix it, don't worry. I'm just gonna move this particular photo over. As you can see, we got different layers, just like in the editing software. It's just kind of different. As you can see, this particular photo of the Premiere Pro is over the photo of the guy with headphones, right? So what we can also do is we can take this, we can enlarge it. And what I actually want to do is I want to take the guy with the headphones and move it over. So as you can see, we can't really see. Now we can't see the Premiere Pro thing, but it's going to be pretty cool once I actually go. Let's go to the erase tool just by hitting E. And what I do is I just do this, right? My eraser is actually at very low opacity, so I can get cooler effects. If it's at higher opacity, it's going to be a bit too strong. I'm actually going to move this up a little bit because I actually want it to be strong. But over on this end, I'm going to move it over to about 10%, so you can just gradually see a little bit of what he's doing, but not too much. You know what I mean, right? So then we could also press erase over here, and of course that would get us more of those bars over there. And that looks like a pretty cool gradient to me. And our area looks a bit weird and white, but that's okay. What I'm actually going to do is hold on, let me open up another thumbnail. So let me just clip that and bring it over here. Let's move this over here. And this will be our logo right here, more than the video. That looks pretty good. Let me just zoom in and take a look at that. Nobody's going to notice that if it's a little bit pixelated because it's going to be really small. So just think just about how small your particular thumbnail is going to be. So you don't want to put very, very little details in. So what I do now is I make a separate layer and I call this solid color. Then what I do is I just do this. Let's bring out this right here. And I want it to make it as pleasing to the eye as possible. So let's pick a color. For the past couple ones, if I take a look at my videos, I've done purple, yellow, blue, violet, orange. So I haven't actually done red. So let's do it. Let's pick a very strong red. And what I can do is I can create a new layer. Let's name this the thumbnail, and right now it's obviously red, so let's move this to white. And what I'm also going to do right here is I'm going to delete some of this over here. I'm just going to delete that, and I could also move the thumbnail, this text over a little bit. So let's move that. And right now it's not looking that cool, right? Because the red is just like this bold, strong thing right there. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to select this, and I'm gonna go to a red, and I'm gonna pick a darker red. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select these areas around me and just add a little bit of a gradient here, grading it and like fading it to a darker red. And this just makes it a little bit more cool and clean and modern. And I just have this right here, right? So that automatically looks a bit cooler than just like the bold red right there. I could again just select that again, and I could continue on and just make it even blacker and darker, and it will be cool. What I can also do is I can go to the text and I can also add shadows there, but I don't think I'm going to do that for this particular one. And I think what I'm going to do for this one is I am going to go to image adjustments and hue saturation. So maybe this isn't good to be that saturated. I'm hitting hue right here, so it's turning it pink, but I can also turn down the saturation and make it not as strong, and turn up the lightness, right? So it's just a bunch of stuff you can play around with Photoshop, and that's why I enjoy doing Photoshop so much. It's just because there's so many different things you can play around with, and you can easily make something look cool in under like 10 seconds, right? I might put subtext right on top over here, and of course this is red, so I don't want it to be red. I'm going to select this. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to turn it white because obviously that's easier to see. And again, there's a cool little thing in Photoshop. If like you can't see your text, what you can also do is you can just double click on this layer, and it opens up a whole bunch of other filters. So like you can do inner shadow, inner glow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a drop shadow, and I'm just going to turn this to normal, and I can do a size like that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to do an outer glow and see what happens. But it looks like I don't think it's going to look that cool if I overdo the outer glow. So I'm just going to move this to like 2. And automatically that looks a bit cooler, but I still can't totally see how to make cool designs, that one right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go back to the layer where the Premiere Pro stuff is. I'm just gonna hit erase. I'm just gonna start erasing some of this, right? And just kind of a subtle touch right there. Yeah, and just continue playing around with the erasing tool. Don't overdo it. It might look kind of weird in the end. So what I'm also gonna do is I'm going to go to solid color and make that just a tad bit bigger. And what we could also do is we could go down to how to make cool designs, and we could just move that down a little bit. So it's all about finding out what's most aesthetically pleasing, and like in terms of, you know, the whole thing in general. And what I like to do is I like to just step back from making these cool little details what's in there, and I just like to step back, you know. And this is about how big your thumbnail is going to be. So you gotta think small right here, but you also gotta think big at the same time. So this is I don't know if that's confusing to you. Basically, you gotta think small in terms of, you know, it's gonna be really small, so you can't overdo little details, but you also have to think big. So you have to think like how I have to make these particular text boxes really, really big. You know, you have to make it as bright and bold as possible, otherwise people are not going to click on your video. And of course, making a good thumbnail is never a surefire way to get people to click on your video, but it does increase your chances by about 150%, okay? So a good thumbnail and a clean thumbnail is always the go-to. You should always be thinking about how can I make the thumbnail the best it can be. And by the way, this font that I'm using is Baby's New, or I think that's how you pronounce it. You can I'll link that down below if you guys want to check that out. But for now, this looks kind of cool. And I do want to search on unsplash.com and see if we can find anything else. So let's take a look here. And you know, I just search up photos just to make sure I haven't really missed anything. But I feel that in terms of simplicity, this is a pretty simple thing to make, but it requires a lot of thinking. You know, how can I make this better? How can I make this cooler? How can I make this more clean? You know, and it all comes down to trial and error. It all comes down to practice. Obviously, I've been making thumbnails for a really long time, and I really only started to use this method that I'm using right now in terms of, you know, the text boxes and the solid color behind it. I really started only to use that when I started making more than videos. So as you can see, I really didn't do that until very recently. In the past, I would just do like, you know, quick draw and like this text here. I would do the text effects where, you know, you make it glow and adding drop shadows and stuff like that, but I really wouldn't put like text boxes behind. So I feel that my thumbnails are definitely a lot better now than it was in the past. And as you can see, you know, even the first episode of More Than a Video, it doesn't really look that great, this purple one and like the weird blur and drop shadows and stuff. But I feel that I am pretty decent at making thumbnails. I'm definitely not the best. I know a lot of people who make thumbnails a lot better than I do. But you know, it all comes down to trial and error, and it all comes down to what you like. So I feel that wraps up today's episode. Today's episode wasn't as long as last week's. Last week's I really wanted to dive really deep. In this episode, I'm just going to talk about the basics because I really think that thumbnail making is your personality, and it's something that you have to decide for yourself. You know, what do I want in terms of my video, because a thumbnail also gives off the vibe of what your video is like. So maybe you want a funnier font if it's a funny video, if it's like a video that you're trying to make modern and clean, if it's like a vlog, maybe you want to use a different font. So fonts are also something, and I will be listing down a couple fonts that I use down below, and you guys can go check that out. And Photoshop is not free. There are other ways of making thumbnails, but I do want to show you guys how I make my own thumbnails. One other way you can make thumbnails is, let's go to YouTube Studio real quick. One other way that you can actually make thumbnails is through this thing called TubeBuddy, and I will be talking about TubeBuddy in the next upcoming episodes because it is a helpful extension to Chrome. I will be linking that down below, but it's basically like something that can help you with your stats and tags and getting your video seen and everything like that. Let's just go to a random video here. What you can actually do is you can create a thumbnail through TubeBuddy. So this is completely free. So you can pick a still frames from the video and you can just add like text and stuff like that on top of it. You can also view stats for your own videos, and they'll give you like search optimization scores and just how well your video can be seen. So TubeBuddy is a free option if you guys don't have Photoshop, but I know a lot of you do have Photoshop, and this is just how I'm creating my thumbnails currently, and I hope this video helped you in some way. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more episodes from this series. We are in episode 6, and in the next episode we will be talking more about profile pictures and banners, and so we will be coming back to Photoshop quite a bit, and I will be talking more about that. But until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.